Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Tamara Ugolini here with Rebel News. I am on the lawns of Queen's Park, downtown Toronto on Sunday, January the 9th for a back-to-school protest where parents have finally said that enough is enough and they want their kids back in class. On Monday, January the 3rd, Doug Ford announced that he was closing schools again for just another 2 weeks.
We'll be delaying the return to in-class learning for the next 2 weeks and continue with virtual learning for the duration of the time away.
And while we know how that's gone previously, we are 2 years into and going on year 3 of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And finally, parents, educators, and students alike have had enough and they do not want to see schools closed any longer. So I'm going to head on into the crowd and get some feedback and see what we can find out. Stay tuned.
I'm a parent. I'm a mother of 4 children, 12 and under, and I've seen them suffer academically tremendously. I've seen them suffer mentally, and my children are privileged children. I cannot imagine every time I look at low-income housing or other areas where there's a single parent trying to work, maybe working outside the home, leaving young children by themselves. This is an emergency. This is a real emergency for all children, and I just can't understand why, when we're in a pandemic and states of emergency have been imposed, that children seem to be coming last.
Yeah, and Ford said that, right, that schools should be the last to close and the first to open, and here we are closing them first. So what would you like to see them do differently?
Well, I think that if I were looking at society, there are some things that you need to keep open in a pandemic. You need to keep grocery stores, you need to keep pharmacies open, and the government's main job actually is to manage hospitals and education, and those things should be protected, period. They should be made a priority, and then managing numbers, the pandemic should be with everything else, but children should be protected. They can't advocate for themselves, and their poor parents are exhausted, beside themselves, and just trying to cope, manage, pay the bills, economic stress, and look after children. And he's really picked on the most vulnerable area of society.
Why are you here protesting the school closures?
My name is Virginia Johnson, and I'm here because I'm outraged that Ford continues to keep closing our schools. Remote learning, we all know, is not learning at all, and it's a mental health crisis for our kids. I've experienced it in my own family, and I don't know why that's not being taken into account.
Do you think that schools are inherently unsafe, as they claim?
I don't think schools are unsafe at all. I think they're ready to open tomorrow. I think we have masks. The teachers are vaccinated. They should have been prioritized earlier to be boosted. I think healthy teachers aren't at risk.
YouTube has some community standards that don't align with anything that so much as questions or goes against the widely accepted mainstream COVID narrative. And so some of the views in these interviews may be counteractive to that community standard. In order to view this report in its entirety, please scroll down to the description below, click the link to be redirected to the full report. I will have to catch you over on the flip side. We're spearheading a campaign at backtoclass.ca to get kids back to class. It's clear that parents, educators, and students all want to be back in the classroom, and it's finally time to say enough is enough, and let's advocate for these children who don't have voices of their own. To sign our petition, our goal is 10,000 signatures. I think we're up to almost 8,000 as of today. That's Sunday, January the 9th. We're up to about 8,000 signatures. We also have an initiative there called One Click Politics, where you can send a form letter to the Minister of Education and the Premier of Ontario to urge them to open the schools and get kids back to class. All of that information can be found at backtoclass.ca.